US Rugby Happy Hour Live. Interviews with the biggest names in American rugby.
The New England Free Jacks, Major League Rugby champions. One-on-one to score.
Here are your hosts, Phil Baker and that other guy.
Welcome, everyone, to a bonus episode of US Rugby Happy Hour Live. I'm John Fitzpatrick from Rugby Morning. Unfortunately, Bill could not join us for this special episode, but don't worry, he'll be right back on the next episode. This is all about previewing the 2025 MLR season on the start of the 8th season of Major League Rugby. We are bringing you a special interview with the duo behind the documentary Quest for the Shield. But before we jump into that interview, I just want to make sure everyone please like, follow, or subscribe to the show. Leave your comments, and of course, follow us on social media and visit eagleoverseas.com and rugbymorning.com for more. Let's get into our interview here. So, San Diego Legion's journey into Major League Rugby has been anything but ordinary, and now it's all captured in Quest for the Shield, a new documentary chronicling the team's 7-year history, culminating in the 2023 MLR Championship final appearance. Today, we're joined by the filmmakers behind it. We'll talk about the challenges of this story, the evolution of rugby in the U.S., and what they hope fans can take away from the film. So let's dive into it. Hopefully, I'm doing this right, because normally this is what Bill does, but please welcome to the show, Dierdre and Justin. Give me a second. Why isn't this coming up? Here we go.
Hey, John.
Hey, John.
Excellent. See, this is why we got to have Bill here, because Bill would have just had that nice and smooth. But Dierdre and Justin, thank you for joining the show. We're excited to talk about the documentary. Let's start right at the beginning. In rugby, right off the kickoff, there's action, there's tackling right away. We'll get right into it here. Dierdre, how did this project come about? Because I understand that this isn't your first documentary about Major League Rugby.
Yeah, and really, I think Justin might be a better one to answer this one in terms of just of our experience in the documentary space, and his history in particular really is what led us on this journey to covering this story. So you want to tell it, Jess?
Yeah. Started out years ago doing surf films. And one of those surf films was sponsored by Nirvana Surfboards. And the owner of Nirvana Surfboards is Darren Gardner, who happens to be the owner of Legion. Yeah. So we were just finishing up a documentary we did on the Nebraska Cornhuskers in the Tom Osborne era for football. And Darren had reached out and said, hey, it'd be interesting if you came and check out this team I'm co-owning with Ryan Patterson, and just see if there's something there. So we knew a little bit about rugby. Had kind of worked in the rugby space prior, but then so we went out and checked it out, and immediately realized like this was an opportunity to tap into documenting what it takes to build a professional sport in the United States, and then obviously a major sports franchise in the US. And they had the aspirations of being the next Dallas Cowboys or New York Yankees. And so we knew this could be a really cool opportunity to capture something with people that are so committed to something building from scratch. So that's kind of how it all started.
Oh, that's great. And the Tom Osborne era for Nebraska, Eric Crouch was probably one of my favorite football players growing up. So shout out Eric Crouch there. So I guess, so prior to the conversations with your friend in the Legion ownership, did you have any familiarity with rugby, or had you seen the sport on like ESPN Ocho or anything like that before?
We had a little experience here in, we're Colorado based, so Glendale is pretty close by for us. So Sevens, Rugby Town Sevens was big for us, and going to and being a part of that event. And then just the Glendale Raptors, right? They started out also, and just being here and kind of having somewhere local to come watch. It wasn't probably a frequent thing or well advertised thing kind of in our area, but once we found it, I think we were hooked, and we were just trying to find out how could we get more access to more rugby, from there on.
sports documentaries have been great. We've seen a number of great ones over the years. I think rugby fans, when they first saw the Six Nations documentary, everyone over here in the U.S. was like, "We need more of this." Quest for the Shield seemed like at just the right time. I was able to watch it. It's fantastic. It seemed like you had all access to everything. I mean, just what was that? I guess walking into it, having all access, was there any concerns from the players? Because let me step back. Rugby players traditionally can be a little reluctant to promote themselves, right? The sport's all about the team, all 15 players out there on the field. So was it hard for the players to maybe open up or feel comfortable with having cameras around, say, all the time?
Yeah, oh yeah. It was, you expect to go in after doing the Nebraska documentary. You expect that kind of response from athletes, like, hey, here's my brand, here's what I'm all about, really trying to get in front of the cameras. And from Anu all the way down, those they all were really kind of reluctant around the camera. I think Saul Muchin was the best. He had come from Washington, so he was used to it, so he understood kind of the vision and was one of those guys that would tell the guys, hey, this is good for rugby, this is good for our brand. And also when we went into it, Darren and Ryan, we really laid out, hey, if this is going to work, we're going to need full access from the operations all the way through to the players for this to really work. So luckily having the team manager, Bobo Dierdre, to help us with that. And then just spending more and more time, the guys got more and more familiar with us. We tried to make sure we didn't, interfere with the objective of winning those games and the focus on the practice. So we tried to shoot it creatively to be able to get right in there and capture it, but really try not to interfere with what they were trying to do.
Yeah, and Dierdre, Justin, feel free to answer this one. I guess going into the documentary, did you have like a clear idea of maybe the story you wanted to tell or editorial direction, or is it more just let's shoot, let's interview, and let's see how this story just naturally evolves?
It started out clear, like 2020, we had a very clear objective. We had a very clean kind of outline, and then we did a lot of pivoting, a lot of seeing where this is going to go. And we kind of felt like, unfortunately, it was almost too good to be true in 2020, how it started off. And you had Ma'a, and you had Nate Osberg there, and you had Brian Max. You just had so much talent, like CeCe Mahoney. Like, you had all these amazing guys, but there wasn't a lot of adversity. There wasn't a lot of struggle so far. And so we were like, oh man, this stinks. Obviously that was hard on everyone when everything shut down and sports became a big unknown. Mm-hmm. But we're like, well, here's this. They did really develop the storyline, though. I feel like for the guys, in terms of showcasing, here you have a brand new league and what they're going to go through to begin with, which is challenging. Throw in a pandemic and then everything else that comes with the after effects and how those guys fought, in terms of the team overall and the culture that they developed that withstood that, it was incredible to witness. I mean, I wouldn't wish for another pandemic on anything, but it did kind of create a very interesting story for us to follow.
Throughout the process, I guess, what impressed you most about rugby players, or what impressed you most about some of the San Diego Legion players, and maybe even just the coaches and the staff and the fans?
Being that it was a startup league and you have these very well-developed leagues around the world, honestly, I think we expected a certain type of athlete. And then walking in the locker room, you realize this isn't just a lower tier level of athlete that's competing in MLR. It was the highest caliber. You're seeing just phenomenal athletes. And I think that really shocked us, from the size, the speed, the strength, the endurance, everything that you'd expect in a rugby player, but at an elite level. And we saw that. And that was, we had a lot of respect when we experienced that. Because, just like I was saying before, just going into it, you didn't really know what to expect. You didn't know if it'd feel more of a semi-pro type of feel, but definitely not. These were definitely elite athletes. And so that really shocked us.
Yeah, and after, I guess, spending so much time with the team, Were there any particular players that you just stood out, or maybe just like their personal backgrounds that you just felt fans needed their story needed to be told a little bit more?
Ones that I think we wish, sometimes with some guys they're very, very playful and joking when the camera's not on, and then when it's on, they're like hiding behind, a wall. So that was kind of we wanted to get more of that, but sometimes you have to just respect people's comfort level and where they're at. But I would say, everyone was overall, I think, very welcoming, very professional, and just it was very giving of their time too. We'd come in and then we'd be on off days like, hey, can we do an interview? Can we call you back in after you just probably want to hang out with your family or go to the beach or go do whatever? And for those guys to really kind of give their time is something I think you would expect, like in the NFL or NBA or whatever, right? You have to give it regardless if you want to. But those guys really just stepped up and then putting in that extra time made the world difference for us and for the film, but just greatly appreciated.
Yeah, Ryan Mattias was one that definitely we dove into a lot of Ryan because, his background and what he was willing to give up to play in the United States. Nate Osberger's one, Sam Wuching, Joe Peterson was really fun to follow, given his background in South Africa. Ma'a is always great, sometimes he's a little bit quieter when he's on camera, but when he's off camera, he's a riot, and he's a great leader, and you can see his presence and how he goes about it is pretty unique, I think, for the elite athlete that he is. But there was a lot of guys. I mean, it was tough. There's a ton of hours of tape, and we did feature go into a lot of different backstories, and so it's tough to kind of narrow it down when you're trying to tell a movie under 2 hours. So
stealing my next question there. The question was just about the editing process. I mean, the number of hours behind the scenes that you filmed. Was it difficult to cut out any clips that you're just like, I wish we could have kept that in the document? Is there going to be an extended cut? Is there the director's extended cut coming later?
Yeah, no, there's tons of stuff that we had to cut that you don't want to, because you have that, you have to tell that one storyline, that one thread, that's going to take you from the beginning all the way through the arch. But yeah, so there's some side stories that happen here and there that you really dive into, but they kind of don't take you in the same direction. So there's a ton of those, tons of content, a lot of great profiles that we did on specific athletes, off the field, that we'd love to start to bring to life as well. Later on through the release, start releasing some of those uncut or those cut scenes.
Yeah, a lot of guys just open us up into their afterlife of like, come with me, like take the dog to the beach, and just kind of what they do when they're done for the day or different things that they were involved in. And we had baby showers, we had all sorts of stuff that just there wasn't a space for it, unfortunately. So,
But I guess, when you spend so long or so much time with, a group of people, relationships develop, did you find yourself like rooting for the Legion, if you know what I mean? Like during the games, like, all right, Legion, like, let's pull this one out. But as a filmmaker, you're supposed to have that objective lens. Was it hard not to root for the Legion in the games?
For sure. Yeah. It was, because you get really invested in the guys. Yeah. And because you've gone on this journey with them, and you've seen how hard they've worked and the sacrifices they've made from the coaches all the way down. You don't see a lot of the things that are happening outside of practice and the games. The hours that some of those guys are spending at the headquarters, from the staff all the way down, and the endless, the non-sleeping, just constant grind that everybody was going through, from the operations all the way through. So you totally got bought into what they were about, and you really did want to see them pull through. And so it was heartbreaking when they didn't pull through.
So that begs the next question. And Dierdre, maybe you can answer this one. So fantastic 2023 MLR final that ended with the Free Jacks winning in the final moments of the game. I can test there was a missed call by the referee on the clear out, but that's neither here nor there. if the Legion had beat New England to win the Shield, how would that have changed the documentary? Let's play that what if game.
Oh, yeah. Been a lot of happy tears probably instead of like the quest continues. Because, yeah, that was heartbreaking. I mean, I was in the coach's box when that time expired, and, no one has words, and people are on the floor, and just yeah, it was gut-wrenching, to be a part of that. And had they won, oh my gosh, because they fought so hard. And like you said, they sacrificed, and you're cheering for guys to like, hey, freak injuries happen, and you're just rooting for someone to be well enough in time for a game, or well enough in time to do something or do their part, or even be a reserve. You're like, if that person can get back in, that's like a difference maker for the team. And so, yeah, I think it would have been incredible. It would have been, Hollywood, wrap a bow on it, call it a day. But I feel like the loss almost makes it more real to what this is in this league, of that continual struggle of trying to get better, and each year maneuvering and just working out a way to get there.
Mm-hmm. And I would say from my perspective, obviously watching the documentary, how the story ends because we saw the final, but I just kudos to both of you. Just the drama was gripping. It held us all the way through. I loved how the stories were weaved in, the action, well done all around, even though we knew like the Free Jacks unfortunately won. But 2 more questions for you. Can rugby fans, can we anticipate any more MLR rugby documentaries coming out of your group, or can you tease us on anything maybe?
We have a couple things in the fire. Yeah, definitely. And so we're hoping MLR focus, maybe potentially some other leagues, but the rugby story it's an incredible journey. And I think people in the US are finally starting to kind of poke their heads up and start to pay attention with what's going on. And we're fully committed to promoting the sport and what it's all about, the culture of it, the physicality of it. So I think we're looking at whatever we can do. And then Jess can speak, because we have some non-documentary type work we're also looking at in this space for rugby.
Yeah. We're even looking in the scripted side of things, as well as MLR Rising coming back. So we'll be back documenting the MLR Rising, and that is a really cool event. And what's happening with the combine, it is kind of how I describe it to people that that follow sports, is you hear combine, you think, okay, yeah, but a lot of the teams there to kind of really know who they're going to pick and who they're going to draft. And what we found in MLR Rising was that it was 100%. These guys are coming to compete, and how they perform is literally going to determine if they get drafted or not, which I think is the ultimate stakes. So really fun project that we're excited to be doing next. So.
I said I had one more question, but I had to ask another question based on MLR Rising, particularly with a sport like rugby that is growing in popularity here in the U.S. And obviously we've got the U.S. is going to be hosting the 31 Men's World Cup and the Women's World Cup in 33, which we're very excited about. Did you get a sense, particularly maybe from MLR Rising, and even from some of the San Diego Legion players, just a sense of like gratitude, like thank you for telling our story, thank you for helping rugby kind of get more exposure? Did you get that vibe from the players?
I think they're so humble, it's hard to tell. I feel like they're like, oh God, I'm on camera, I don't know about that. But hopefully I think overall, if you're taking a step back from not maybe wanting yourself to be on the screen, you see what it's doing for the sport. I think there's an appreciation for that.
Yeah, and we've had some guys message us after that are like, thank you so much for making this happen and what you're doing for the sport. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of the U.S. guys in particular that, are very excited about kind of what this can be doing for rugby in the United States.
Great. So we're on the eve of the 2025 MLR season. Regular season starts on Saturday. So, of course, I've got to ask you both this question. Who's going to win the MLR Shield this year?
It better be Legion, right? I'm like, I bleed black and red at this point, so I'm a little biased.
I think the owners and CEO David Haig, I mean, they've put a lot into what's going on over there at Legion. I think they've made some really good moves this year in the off season. You're going to see a team that's similar, but I think a little bit more dynamic this year. And so I'm excited. I think they're going to do really well. I would. There's a lot of new guys, so it's hard to tell, exactly. But Seattle's going to be good. They're going to be coming for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting.
And New England's done a great job, right? Obviously, year after year. But there's been watching the evolution of the league. I mean, every year you're like, dang, I thought we could have had this team last year, but probably not this year. I mean, it's just incredible to see the development that's happening within the league and the players and what they're doing, and just excited. I'm excited for some really good rugby. So
I couldn't have said it any better myself. Justin and Dierdre, thank you so much for coming on the show and answering these questions. And fans, Quest for the Shield is available now on Amazon Prime Video. Please watch it before the season starts so you can follow San Diego Legion and just the great job that Justin and Dierdre did chronicling their story. Again, Justin, Dierdre, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks,
John.
Really
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Alrighty. Again, that was Justin and Dierdre, the filmmakers behind Quest for the Shield. Dierdre said it best. I'm excited for the 2025 MLR season. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning into this episode of US Rugby Happy Hour Live. We'll be back next week as we recap round 1 of Major League Rugby. Bill will be back, but make sure you like, follow, and subscribe, and leave some comments.